And we are live on another umbraCoffee episode number 166. And hello everyone, hello Julia and Niels who are joining us today. How are you all? And hi Callum.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Welcome back, Callum. we were missing you last time. How was your birthday?
It was good. I ate a lot of sugar. I've been on a health kick for a few months, and I decided that as it was my birthday, I was going to treat myself. I took some time off. I've not really taken any time off in like 2 years, so I took a couple of days off, turned my emails off, just ate rubbish,
Nice.
and it felt amazing.
Yeah, we all need that from time to time. And how about you, Julia and Niels? How was your week?
Oh, good, I
You
guess.
can
You can start, Julia.
Good, except the Danish weather that didn't really turn out that well. But
So you are in Denmark. You are located in Denmark right now, right? It's
Yes,
not you are
I'm
working remotely
located-
from Poland.
I'm located in Denmark. Usually I'm located in Esbjerg, but right now I'm a little bit north of Esbjerg by North Sea in the summer house. So it's really nice. And
Yeah, we were just
Yeah.
joking before going live that we should run it in Polish for this special occasion. But yeah, tak, super tak.
I think we thank you for not running it in Polish.
Cool. So yeah, it was an extremely interesting week, of course, in Umbraco sphere, and we all kicked it off with something what was celebrated extremely well in Umbraco community, which was International Women's Day, and there was a couple great stories highlighted this week, and I really like this year because I've learned about a lot of great people around the communities, around various communities who were highlighted thanks to this series, and Umbraco did a series of blog posts as well, highlighting a couple of community members. And if I'm sharing the correct screen, this is the one. So every story is on Umbraco blog, and every woman in tech presented here is shared a great story of the involvement in not only Umbraco community but also the tech and also industry and the whole story behind the journey of this specific person being highlighted here. And Ingrid was pretty well known, I would say, because she was visible on some of the conferences and some of the talks in the past. But there was also a story about Ayu, who is from Bali in Indonesia, and also the third story was about Kimberly Blessing, and these at least women were less known for myself particularly, and that's something what we always highlight and always admire in Umbraco, that these stories are not only about the same people every time, but also highlighting some new people, new faces, and allowing us all to learn more about them, to know them more. And yeah, introduce them more maybe in the community. Did you all read the stories about the women this year?
not yet.
Not
Sorry,
yet.
not yet.
They're on your own blog, and it's been a busy week. I've read a couple of them. Like you say, Marcin, always incredibly impressed to see some new faces featured on these things. And like you said, Ayu in Indonesia, there's people up in Scotland, but also some familiar faces and people that maybe I've met, but are maybe lesser known in the community as well, which is just great to see them being featured and to see their stories.
Yeah, and since it's almost more than a year since the last physical event in Umbraco universe, it's hard to say. We've met some people, and we always need some reminders about great people across the world, especially these days, because everything is happening and everyone is at almost the same position, and it's all worth to remember and remind about people, not only women. We had also Polish Men's Day, which is surprisingly
That's true.
not, of course, as usual, November 19th on the rest of the world. We had our own 10th March Men's Day, and we had a really nice
To conflict with International Women's Day or the kind of celebrations this week, you've decided to move Men's Day.
It's probably to just be fair and to have everything done in the same week, just you know. but we had a pretty great celebration in our flat, in our blog here, because with our neighbors we've exchanged some gifts and some presents, and the same was the 2 days after, and then we've decided the day after that to just spend some time together and drink it all what we've received and and just spend some cool time together. So yeah, we had this, and I know that, and I needed to check, and I learned myself that the Men's Day, the International Men's Day, is on November 19th. I didn't know that, to be honest. So yeah, it was great, but and again, there were a lot of great stories, and maybe as a call to action, if anyone found a great blog, a great story, a great input on this kind of highlights from this week, just let us all know in the comments. We are always happy to learn and read more about interesting stuff. But there was also a March U profile, which was another great woman from Umbraco community highlighted in this month, which is Lynn. And Lynn is a lead front-end developer from Scotland, and again, as a U profile, is a celebration of the involvement and the community participation described here, with all the stories. And Lynn proudly presented the swag from Umbraco UK Festival number 10. And a lot of great other tips and stuff from her to the community members, who hopefully will read and learn more about Lynn's involvement into the community. So yeah, March U profile. This year is just flying. I didn't notice that we are in the middle of the March already. So yeah, good to know.
It's not just we're in March. We're in the middle of March now. Like it was 2 weeks ago, or my last umbraCoffee was still February. So, where's this year going?
But last thing on International Women's Day, because still until tomorrow there is a form open, and Umbraco as an HQ offered the free fundamentals course for 7 women from Europe, 7 women from Asia, and 7 spots are for women based in Americas. And the form is open till tomorrow, so we still can submit some great women from our community, and maybe some women who are maybe not that familiar with Umbraco yet, and they want to learn about fundamentals and begin the journey with Umbraco. And I forgot about this form, and I will leave it open for myself to submit some ideas there.
It's great to see, and okay, yeah, it would be fantastic to nominate someone that maybe a colleague or someone just getting started. But also, feel free to submit yourself, nominate yourself, because if you think you're worthy, if you meet the criteria, if you're getting started with Umbraco, why not submit yourself? It's a good opportunity. It's also nice to see that kind of this transparent and transparent number of spots available, and definitely per region, and especially where maybe the community would normally focus on Europe and America, actually actively trying to encourage people from Asia as well is really cool. So I hope to see all those slots taken up.
Yeah, and again, it was more available this year than in the past years. Sometimes when it was who is first, then it's on them. And right now it's just everyone can participate, no matter of the time zone and stuff like that, which is another great step towards more accessible access for the training. So good stuff. And as we've in the middle of the March, we can highlight some upgrades from Umbraco from the latest product update before we'll join the main topic of today's episode, because Rune shared a product update today, which highlights some of the exciting steps and exciting releases and announcements from the Umbraco HQ activity. And as an overview, we can just see that there is a new release of Umbraco 8.12 being released this week, following with some new releases of Forms and Umbraco Deploy, and some patches for CMS, Forms, and Deploy in the next
so there's an incredible amount of patches coming. I think about 10 different patches.
Yep. March 25th.
March 25th next week, Umbraco deployment on premises. And I'm really happy to see that after two and a half years of talking about this, we're finally calling it by its proper name. I've been campaigning for that for a long time. But also, Umbraco Forms 8.7 is a really interesting one, because maybe people don't know, it's not really public, but kind of is. So Andy Butland, famous in the Umbraco community, has joined Umbraco HQ, and he's taking on the responsibility of deploy and forms. So this Forms 8.7 release is stuff, a lot of it is stuff that Andy's been doing in his first few weeks. And I think we're going to see a lot more regular updates to these products now with him. He's 100% dedicated just to those two things. It's going to be an interesting time.
Yeah, we never mentioned that yet, but it's important because it addresses some of the concerns and some of the issues which a lot of people had in the past, that some less love was moved onto this project and onto these products, and right now we might be sure that there will be more regular updates, more regular patches and new things coming to the forms and deploy. So yeah, as you've mentioned, a lot of patches for standard releases, but also announcements about the .NET Core Beta being postponed a little bit this time for the new date. But yeah, as we saw,
apparently this is because the idea was that the beta would be available for kind of every single feature service that you'd expect to be working and functional, so you could start building packages against it. I think things like membership are still taking a little bit longer, so that's what's not happening. But we're getting an Alpha 4, which is going to have all of the stuff kind of up to date, and you could probably, as long as you don't want membership or any of that, you could probably start building packages against the Alpha 4. So it doesn't really change the time frame too much, and they've made it clear there's no intentions for this to make the end target of August slip. This isn't going to affect that.
No. Which is good, and again, thanks for communicating that officially, and that's just well known right now. And there is a topic, of course, which is more related to our guests today, which is a new request for comments in the UI component library. So maybe we can focus on that for a while right now. And there is also a link to this umbraCoffee, which can be rewatched later on. So I believe that you are going to show and tell us something more about this component library, but just to slip through the rest of the announcements before that, there is some of the new roadmap items and some upcoming releases, and Callum, we've spotted a new roadmap item, which is tabs for Umbraco CMS, which is
coming back. And I'll be honest, Rune post literally as soon as it came out. We talk on Fridays generally when there's going to be a product announcement. We saw this. I lost my mind. And it seems Twitter's losing their mind right now as well. I've seen Lee Kellers going, "What? This is actually happening?" So yeah, Niels, Julia, what's going on? What's happening with tabs?
Yeah, what's
happening? It's happening. That's what's happening.
It's happening.
We missed the tabs. We're bringing them back. Nice. And we are not removing any existing functionality. So you can keep using groups as well. So and combine them as you like. So that's going to be really nice.
Very nice. So that's great, because I think the tabs versus groups has been a very, let's say, religious debate.
It's same like tabs versus spaces. You will never get to the end of this conversation.
So I think, it's a nice idea to have the choice, and I think that was kind of always the argument, wasn't it? That
it's definitely a point of perspective. Like which website did you work on last time? And then maybe the groups was most important for that case, and then tabs are important for other cases. Yeah. And I think that's where the balance comes in. That having both available, we will avoid having like 12 tabs with single properties within them. But on the other hand, by having tabs, we also avoid having really long groups. And
the prime example is when you have the grid in a group, and then the grid loads and it bumps all of the groups. Because
that's a bad experience.
It's annoying, but then its own tab makes some sense. So I've used Matryoshka on a few projects, and others I haven't, and I don't think that's a big issue. And it's great to see this will be coming into core. I said to Rune as well this morning, I'm surprised you've been open and transparent. What kind of this is the first announcement of it, that we're bringing tabs back. It's not necessarily an admission that they shouldn't have gone in the first place, but just that you found a better way, a better experience to do them. But I'm surprised you didn't put some like marketing spin on it and reinvent them as our new property grouping technology.
Great new UI UX.
We can still do that. We can do that later.
We will send the invoice for this pro tip after that. But I really like to answer with memes recently. And Callum, I believe you liked my meme today. It took a little while to get to this point, and I sent the meme to Rune and Callum with this pigeon. So now I don't want stabs. which is kind of probably an output which a lot of people will say, because I admitted that I kind of used to the new way, and as Callum said, we can tweak it by using some other stuff, and again, it's not like it became a massive debate discussion, but still we can do with and without tabs. But that's a great improvement. But okay, Julia and Niels, you can tell us more about other things which you are working on with this UI and UX improvements, and of course refer to the RFC, which we've shared and highlighted last week.
Yeah, but maybe let's just two things about the tabs, because it's going to be opt-in. You don't need to have them. And I'm just going to say we have Mads on board and he's working on it. So it is happening.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, yeah. But then we're also having this UI component library request for comment out now, which I'm really excited about. I think having this in the future will really improve life for package developers, but also just our product in general, as we will have a space for our UI and a place for that to be developed outside.
So being
the back office.
Decoupled from the Umbraco back office, meaning it could actually, the same pattern library could be used across every Umbraco product, right? You could build the cloud portal with this exact same.
Yes, exactly. And it's not something we touch upon in the RFC, but now you're on to the point. We actually have components that are shared between the back office and the cloud portal as of today. And it is a problem that if the back office evolves, the cloud portal stays behind and so on, and you need to improve both places. And we have similar sort of problems today, where if the back office evolves, all the packages using components of the back office has to evolve as well, or we are locked because we always have to stay backwards compatible. That's really a challenge that we want to get. We're going to get rid of that enforcement in the future, so we can improve the product more rapidly and make a better, what can you call it? Make it more fun to be a package developer. Yeah.
And you've showed a great video following the RFC with highlighting the demo, which is also right now available on GitHub, and it's RFC demo, if I'm correct. Yep, that's this library. Do you want to share and talk about something maybe other than we saw, or maybe something what is the current output, or based on the feedback which was discussed on the RFC?
So I don't think there's any output yet from the RFC, but I'm very happy that people are reading the RFC and bringing comments. I see a lot of great comments and really good points as well, both people's concerns, also topics that we are not sure about yet, like Matt Braceford. Am I pronouncing that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sorry, Matt. Is concerned about whether we'll be able to make packages that follows the style of Umbraco, right? And that's a topic that's not solved by this RFC. So the RFC is more showing our intentions of having a UI library, putting it separately. We'll use native technology, so we don't really have a certain technical requirements for it to work, and we want it also to be the UI utilities for you to make a package, but all the details of that is not settled just yet. I think that comes as we evolve the project. Still in a very early phase, sorry.
Looking at the feedback so far on the project, it's been very interesting to see people from very different backgrounds, experiences, schools of thought with regards to front end. I think Matt is a vocal fan of things like Tailwind, and Tailwind has certainly got a very specific way of doing things with these kind of like utility and component classes. For if you've come from, say, just working with Bootstrap forever, you're maybe more used to just having column classes and then applying a class to just your styles or something.
Yeah.
And so there's very different ways that you can attack these challenges, right? And people have got preferences.
And one maybe important thing that is maybe a bit hard to differentiate at this point is that we are in the RFC trying to talk about the technology choices of our components in the UI library. But as a developer for Umbraco, you are actually not supposed to really be touching these parts. You will more be a user or an implementer of components from the UI library. So how each building block, let's call them that, is constructed within, you shouldn't actually be concerned about. So I think what Matt is requesting is also something that comes in the future back office.
Nice. And Julia, what is your involvement? Because you've started the internship, right, with Umbraco,
Yes.
and it was already and straight to this UI library work, or?
Yes, it was exactly straight to UI library work. My internship ends today, actually, and from Monday I'm changing my status a bit to student programmer. And for this 10 weeks, I've been working on UI library. So yeah, there's quite a lot that I've done there. Hopefully it's good.
Yes, Julia.
We'll see. But yeah, so maybe we can show something actually.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think that show us the code. Do you need to share your screen, Julia? Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
this is us. But there.
Inception.
Here we have a huge button, and it has one simple functionality. If we click it, then it shows us how many times it was clicked. So usually you do those things with helps of frameworks like React, Vue, Angular. But this is a bit different because if we inspect that, we can see this weird tag called UUI umbraCoffee. So what is that? It has a shadow root inside and a native button. That's what we see. And this is a web component built with lit element. The sole thing we have to do to put it on our web page is just to drop this tag. And this is what we're going to get, a button that will react to the click.
So the whole logic is hidden behind the component, right? And
yes, the whole logic is hidden behind the component. It's exactly like with native elements. So if we drop any native input here, like a slider or select or anything, the only thing we have to do is to really drop the tag, set up some attributes, and we're done. And the whole logic is hidden inside. This is actually the shadow root and the shadow DOM. It's actually exactly the same what native elements are using. It's exactly the same standard, exactly the same technology. So that's why it's going to work always and everywhere, because this is just using exactly the same things.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, So at the end of the day, we hope that we'll have a native experience with Umbraco components. So as a package developer, you don't have to use certain technology or such. You'll just use the Umbraco components and they will work like native components.
Exactly. So how do we do that? We decided to choose lit element as it's not really a framework. It's a base class that helps you do some basic things you need to do to set up a reactive custom element. And to make it update itself, we need to set up a property, like we do it here with the decorator. We can specify a type, and this is not a TypeScript type, it's a native type, and that's how we tell lit element how to convert this, because, okay. So let's say we can set the value to 50, and if I save, it's going to reload, and here we're going to see 50. So we can set this properties through attributes, and
that's just the code making that happen. Like it's just the property defined in the class, and then this.
Yes, and then the lit element does all the magic. It has its own converters, so that's why we specify the type here, because otherwise, if we don't do it, it's going to think that it's a string. So
You can't increment it.
Still works, but
magic of JavaScript.
But yeah, I think you can even write your own converters. Nice. But that's a little bit beyond the scope. So what happens here? We have this value that we can set through attribute here, or just by grabbing this element and setting through the property. And we can also do one more thing that requirements provide us with.
So can I highlight one thing, Julia?
Mm-hmm.
Is it called decorator? The add property line marks. So what happens behind the scene is that lit element registers this as a property that needs to be watched for re-rendering. So when that happens, then if we change the value, we'll re-render the template of the component.
Yes.
So that's the reactive part of it. And that makes the method you see on line 24 work just by that. We don't need to call request update or any other things.
So it's like so is it effectively two-way bound at that point? If you had a form field, a text field, would it be updating the model? And if you update the model, it would update the value of the text field?
So that's where Julia is going now.
Yes. So we can reflect the property back to the attribute by setting the option reflect to true. And now what we're going to see in the markdown is that whenever we click that, this will also be reflected here.
Nice.
So
I see some potential here for a package-made set of components or something like that, because I believe, again, it's like Umbraco will have your own set of components which will be reusable, but I see a huge potential of some really probably heavily logic-backed in the background components which will do some crazy stuff and can be also released like that, if it will be possible to be extended.
And you also, can do anything you want with
as this is. So I saw in the chat, Carl asked for backend devs, what text actually being used here. And as far as my understanding is, this is a TypeScript class, so it's effectively JavaScript. And the only thing you're using is this lit element library, which is just it's just one class. It's a base class.
And it's basically
tiny helper.
It's helping us write the web component code, because the web component code requires a bit more code that is not that handy to use in development. So these decorators helps us write that. So actually, lit element is not doing things in that regards. It is a native technology.
Yep.
Fantastic. Nice. So it is literally native JavaScript with a wrapper around it to make things a little bit easier. So there's no framework you need to go and understand here. The extent of it is this app property, and then the rest is you render whatever you want, however you want, and you control all of that.
Exactly, and that's actually a quite important point as well, that we don't have any framework or application logic within these components. Because if we had the application using these components would have to communicate with that framework, and then we sort of have a technical dependency. We want to be free, so the UI library, if we eventually in the future wants to upgrade the technology, there's nothing depending on that technology. Or the other way around, back office can now change technology without us having to redo our components.
So
the components can be used in multiple different technology stacks.
Right. So let's say here, of course, TypeScript class, you've got that extending the lit element. But if you decide we want to get rid of lit element completely, and we're just going to use, maybe we're going to write our own, well, then you implement that class in your project and you just change what you extend from, and ta-da, it works. And equally, for any package devs wanting to customize, extend back off existing core components, they could also just extend the core class and get all of the benefits of all of the plumbing that's going on behind the scenes to make all of that wire up.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we could easily end up in a situation where we'll have base classes that solves a certain purpose that someone might want to extend, without it being concrete. But the concept, yes, for sure.
Button with loader and stuff like that. Yeah. So, nice.
Well, they actually, when it comes to the loader, because it's actually quite interesting how you construct more complex things out of this. Because there is also a thing called slot that I can just drop here. And now, if I type in something inside this tag, like hello, it's also gonna go here. So it doesn't only have to be typed, but I can just put an input there.
And nested components.
Yes, it's nested. So now, I have an input there. But this is how those components are supposed to be, like the most basic building blocks. So thanks to the slot, you can actually put one inside the other without having to do anything here.
So this is a concept that exists in many frameworks, and even Angular, and it's being used in the back office currently, isn't it? With the directives or the components where you can, examples are like the dialogues. Of course, they're all like overlay, and then you've got editor header, editor footer, editor content, all this stuff to kind of start building up the padding and the spacing you need. So I guess we're going to see similar approaches with this.
Yes, definitely. And I think we'll be using slots even more, so we don't end up having components with a ton of configuration options that all messes up the component, but instead having more of a compositional architecture.
Are the slots a native concept, or is that part of lit element?
That's
native. It's a native concept.
So there's literally the literal only thing that is touching lit element is that property bind. Everything else.
Yeah, and then in this example, the rendering, we use the HTML, it's called template literal, which helps us bind things together. We see that in my demo as well, but it enables us to add event listeners in line of the template, which is just handy. Of course, you could select, use a selector to grab the element and do it that way, but it's a bit more handy to do it inline. Similar, if you wanted to set a property which is not an attribute, you can do that. Stuff like this. So lit element is making it handy, you can say.
Yeah.
Making it compelling compared with some of the features we know from well-known frameworks.
Very nice.
But still keeping it in a native. And actually, to sort of build a bit on top of this concept of it being native, let me just see if I'm ready to share something here. We wanted to exemplify this by taking one of the UI library components and put it into the existing back office. Not that this is what we will be doing, necessary at least, but just to show. And why is thing running slow? Okay. So it's not because we want to do this, but it's just showing the concept that because it's a native technology, we can easily implement a component into just the existing code. So in this example, we have replaced the input field here for a name with a component, with the text field component of the UI library, and we'll see here that it just works. Mm-hmm. And if we have a look at the code, I hope everyone can see this. Maybe I need to scale a bit.
Zoom it a bit.
Yeah, maybe zoom it.
Let's see here. Mm-hmm. So right here, you can see that the component is the UUI text field. And the value is right here, as we saw in Julia's example. Mm-hmm. Just right, and it will update. And the reason why it works is because we just added an event listener on the event called change. And when that happens, we will pass the value back, and then Angular will pick up and do its thing. What's actually very nice about this example is that it also shows that the Angular directives work, because Angular attribute directives are just applied to an element. So the localize directive, which you maybe know if you have looked at Umbraco frontend code before, goes ahead and watches the value of the placeholder and the label, and if it contains an @ symbol, it will go pick it up in the translation dictionary and paste that in. So actually the code here is, do I have it ready? Did I prepare that? Yes, you see here, this is the code of the example we just saw.
Maybe zoom in as well.
Yes. Here. Thank you.
If you can. Yep, better.
Then you can see here the the value that we put into the placeholder is just a string, and the AngularJS directive actually picks that up and replace it, and it works.
That's incredibly interesting. So I was going to ask actually, and of course, you've made it very clear that the back office the UI library, the component library, should have no dependency, or as few dependencies as possible. So there's going to be no framework. We're not talking here about is it Angular versus Vue or React. It's just pure web components. They could run absolutely anywhere. And this exemplifies it nicely. I was going to ask, of course, in Angular and in Vue, we have ng if, ng show, all of these things. I guess what this is saying then is that's logic, and that is going to be decoupled from components. If something shows or hides in a component, the component itself will control that, and then the kind of stateful stuff for your back office, for the application, will be controlled by whatever framework gets chosen for the back office. So yes, this takes the question of a framework kind of out of the question completely, doesn't it? Because you're showing here it's working with whatever you've chosen. It just so happens that it's Angular in this case.
Yeah, that's our own rationality. Is that even pronounced right? that we don't see a need currently for having a framework to make these components, because they are bare simple. They don't have a much of logic in them. So we left that out for now. We're not promising that we won't bring it in at one point, but we don't need it now. So we have not introduced it yet. The same goes for preprocessor for styling, because the style is just the style of a component is just the style for that component. We have encapsulated styles, so which is a feature of web components, that the styles we apply to it are only existing for that shadow DOM, is what it's called. So we don't have much trouble of things colliding or the trouble of names. We also not have so much a trouble of reusing things, because we're just defining it for that specifically.
Yeah, I think we are all learning this, because thanks to the frameworks, thanks to all the component driven approaches in various web development techniques. And I was always amazed of granular approach of being able to use some specific smaller elements and combine them in the bigger elements. And in this case, it sounds like exactly for what it's created and why it's created like that. And we don't want to dictate, and you as an Umbraco, you don't want to dictate how button behaves in the top banner, in the down banner, or something like that. Let's just control it if you really want to control it, or change it if you really want to change it, right? That's cool, I think, yeah.
And it also enables the Umbraco components to be used elsewhere than just in the back office. So if you are making
fake Umbraco back office,
grab them and use them.
if you're making your own Umbraco back office, yeah. No, if you're making a product, but you
in
want it to
PHP.
look... yeah. Oh, it's Friday.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I see really a huge potential here. You've mentioned the cloud, for example, right, or various other places where it can be just easily integrated. It doesn't need to be Umbraco back office. It can be totally different application, but still looks and behaves and just keeps the same standards. Which is another great stuff, because it will be similar UI UX and experience for people being involved in the Umbraco ecosystem, let's say, to just know how it will behave, and if it doesn't behave correctly, it just means that it doesn't, and it's not because it works like that, maybe looks different or works different. So really cool stuff. Great. Do you have anything else to share? Anything cool, which is or the demo is?
Yeah, I think this is what we wanted to talk about, but I just think it's really cool that we'll as well be having. So we use a piece of software called Storybook to present the components, and that will serve as sort of a library that you as a package developer can go to, and you can see and explore the components of Umbraco. So it's also going to work as our documentation. And I think as a package developer, that would be much more fun to go in here, pick the blocks you want to use, build your package, instead of having to learn everything about Umbraco.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that.
How far-reaching is this component library going to be? Is it literally going to cover every bit of the UI that you see in the back office, or is it going to be? Is there still going to be some things that live in native Umbraco core code?
Yes. So we don't intend to put things here that only serves like a single purpose in the back office. But we most likely will have the visual parts that build that in here, like the button or a arrow or a trash bin, or like all the visual parts needed will most likely live here. But yeah, there will be some components that serves a specific purpose, and there's no need to have those shared, because putting it here also indicates that we want others to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And is what you've shared with us, this component library application, it's all in this demo, if I'm correct, right? It's like we can grab it and see it and play with it, right? And
yes, that's right.
It's just here, and we will of course link it up into the description down below. And it was mentioned also in the blogs. So I believe that what you are really willing to have more is like exactly some ideas, stars, issues, and still comments to the RFC, because that's still ongoing. Yeah. It's still not closed. It's still having a lot of great feedback from various areas of Umbraco development. And we've mentioned it 2 weeks ago or a week ago that every input is welcome. It's not like just front enders can talk about it. It's like still about usability, about extensions, about packages, about how we can use it, how everyone can use it. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things to be mentioned that, and a lot of already covered topics and ideas. So if we can make you busy reading the RFC's comments, people comment, let your ideas fly there and improve the general output of it. But it looks, and we've mentioned that multiple times, it looks already awesome, and we can't wait to see it fully covered.
But for me, great work. In principle, this seems like a fantastic idea. I guess it's as I'm not a front end developer really. I guess for me, it'll be how easy is it for me to work with it when it's a much bigger size, many more components, that sort of thing. How easy is it to contribute? Of course, we want the friendly, contributing ethos of Umbraco to still live on in this, and in some ways make it easier for people to contribute to the product. So yeah, I think that proposal makes a lot of sense from everything you've shown. It's just, how is it going to scale? How is it going to look in a year's time when lots of people have had their grubby hands on it?
Yeah, and it's maybe important to highlight it is going to be a separate repo, open source. You can clone it, you can contribute to it, and we hope to get a nice developer experience in terms of when a component has been reviewed and merged. There's maybe something releasing a new version, so you can go ahead and use it directly. And by it being separately, it should hopefully be simpler to review and as well contribute, because it's scoped from all the application logic.
Jason in the chat's asking, because it's separated from Umbraco and at least from the core CMS, is there argument that there may be some components in here that might be used in one Umbraco product but not another, or maybe are a bit more broad, generic? An example would be field inputs that are, you want some kind of validation or required logic on fields.
Definitely, for sure. We'll have general purpose components, and some of them are maybe not used in the back office. Maybe we see a potential for a package to use it or other software.
And equally something that a package desperately wants. An example I can think of would be some kind of licensing pop-up or something that just says, hey, you need a license to use this component. That's not something that exists in the core really, but you could see being utilized by Umbraco Forms or Vendor or other licensed products, but would belong actually in the UI component library, because people can then make use of it in their package.
Exactly.
So, nice.
And because it's an open project, everyone can also go ahead and contribute with a component if they find it relevant. So maybe there's a package with a component within it, and maybe the developer of that sees a certain potential in sharing this with others, then it can be hosted in the UI library.
That's cool, and I think that it will exactly open the possibilities for people who want to reuse some stuff which was seen on other packages. For example, I was copying always the dashboards or sections from packages like Using or others which were already covering some of the great and well-built back office experiences, and right now we can just build it on in the components and extract some good things from open source packages as well. So two ways communication here. And what I would love to see there, as probably as a backend developer, same as Callum, is like how to integrate them with some logic and how to maybe manipulate this data, because you've showed it how to do it in TypeScript, but I might not know what TypeScript is, right? And things like that. So how to put this data on, how to work with them. And I believe that there are more examples like that will come after releasing the components, and we are really awaiting working with them in the near future. So yeah, big high five, Rock, for sharing that, and yeah, all the links and all the stuff will be of course linked down below. Feel free to contribute and say your opinions about it.
Do we know how much longer the RFC's got left?
Yeah, do we have it?
Oh,
there's no deadline set on it, right? But even roughly.
Okay.
It's only been
sorry, I think normally it's 3 weeks, but I'm sorry, it's not my expertise. I should have prepared.
There will be definitely a call. There will be probably a call for the last contributions as usual.
Yeah.
So if it will be closing, we'll definitely remind about it. So yeah. Right now it's open. Contribute and share your opinions.
Yeah, so we'll put the link not only to the RFC, but actually the RFC proof of concept, the demo as well down below, so people can go on there, have a play with it, and then maybe come back and feed back to the RFC. It doesn't have to be just looking at what's written.
Cool. So let's jump now to the section about releases, because a lot of releases came out this week as well. They are still based on the old versions and all releases, if we are thinking about future already that much. But there was an Umbraco 8.12 release this week, which we were also talking about. It was in the release candidate state for a while, and right now we can all upgrade and use the unattended upgrades, some customizable boot error pages, a lot of other great features here, and yeah, the full blog post with a great video on unboxing Umbraco CMS is also here, so you don't need to upgrade to see what's there if you want to just check out what's going on inside of the recent upgrade, and of course great blog post highlighting everything what has changed with some great examples and improvements being developed and shipped with this version, same as with the breaking changes and highlights and big and high fives to all the contributors of this great release. I haven't upgraded yet. I don't know what about you, Callum, but it's really on the list because it's looked like a lot of things from here is breaking changes in terms of our great experience with Umbraco, and they will improve our work with Umbraco.
I noticed whilst looking for news for today's episode, actually on Twitter, someone was tweeting at company, "Hey, your website's sending me to some page about this thing called Umbraco," and it was triggering the installer. So clearly something had gone wrong there, where they've got a misconfigured app setting or something that meant the installer was firing. And of course, unattended upgrades means that never shows. And equally, the new boot error screen, in case there is an error, means you can personalize that, customize it for your brand as well. So kind of perfect. This person just needs to update to 8.12 and they're all good.
Yeah, I think everyone have been there and done that and had these issues with a login screen after the upgrades in the past. And right now, hopefully, we can all get rid of them completely and be able to pass them if of course upgrade doesn't need any specific manual steps. Lee released a new version of Contentment. And as we've been also saying a lot about this package in the last weeks, Lee proved also how Contentment is extendable and how big possibilities are behind this package. So here there is a new release with some new property editors, new features added to that. A lot of them added here.
This package is a great example of effectively building a set of UI components or reusable things on top of the back office, because there's different picker experiences and things that can be reused, and they're definitely far more complex than some kind of UI component library would belong. They wouldn't belong in there, but it just shows there's patterns already out there being used.
But that's exactly one of the examples which I had in my mind. Like it's great to be an extended set of components with some hidden logic and extended logic, back office logic and integration points. So probably it's going to happen if UI library will be out. But here it's right now for us to be used, and great work from Lee on releasing that.
Exactly, so, it's a really nice package, and I think what it shows is that the community has a lot of insights about how they want the product to be shaped to provide a meaningful user experience, and Lee is providing that by rearranging some things. And the work he's doing today is super great, but hopefully with the UI library, that will be easier to rearrange and create the right experience. So we can have a bit more of Warren's mantra, hack the world. It should hopefully be a bit easier to hack together a experience that suits what you need in your case.
Yeah. So you mean it means like you are constantly also looking at the community work and seeing kind of bridges and possibilities to extract these things from community to Umbraco HQ, right?
Yeah,
that's great. So another thing, another back office extension, and another regular release from Christian, week after week, property editor in every week challenge 2021, and this is the address field editor with combined fields for components of the address, and again. In a lot of projects, I've built it property by property, and here it can be simplified and combined all together and stored all together in the database.
Really funny, especially because Christian's motivation is literally he wants to put the zip code and the city name on the same line, which makes loads of sense. However, in the UK, they'd be the other way around. So we would do and I know that in some places you put the kind of house number after the street name or before. So there's all kinds of complexities around address that can get really really messy. But I was going to have a look at this because I've got plenty of projects where we need to put addresses in, and having them in another format would be really cool. I wonder if there's, I don't know, a way we could localize them depending on your document culture.
Imagine the cultural-driven address field here in the settings. I'm not throwing ideas for Christian, but
telephone numbers, though, isn't it? Telephone numbers are ridiculously complicated.
Oh, try to write a regular expression to validate telephone number. That's
impossible. Yeah.
I wish you luck. But it's a really great property, and as you've said, it has its use cases, and definitely it's worth checking out. And Shannon prepared a bunch of releases. First was for the ExaminX package, which is an Azure Search replacement of examine indexes for Umbraco, and it was followed, or maybe the entry point for that was where the examine updates itself. So there is a new beta version of Examine, 1.2 beta and 0.2 beta for with some new features and bug fixes and
finally
testing.
Moved away from the 0.197 for Examine for version 7 now, which is yeah,
and of course testing is much appreciated. So everyone who is kind of heavily using Examine is welcome to participate in this unofficial set of tests and share your feedback and potential issues with Shannon to get them fixed. I clicked the wrong buttons here, but there was also an update from Anders and Skybrat team with a pre-release of the Umbraco Time property. With the converter. Again, tests are more than welcome, as this is the pre-release, but from what I saw, it's pretty stable already, and it's a second release, so it has already some things fixed. So everyone who wants to use the time property can just grab it and use it and share the feedback with Anders and Skybrat team. And one big release, which we've mentioned a couple of weeks ago, was about the e-commerce package for e-commerce, also for Umbraco, but also other CMSs. And it was teasing the 9.4 version, and right now it is launched. So everyone who is around the around e-commerce and it was or wants to use e-commerce with Umbraco and check out the latest e-commerce, it's there. It has some great updates, great performance updates especially, and some new features and new stuff released together with this version. So
whilst we're talking about e-commerce, can I bring discussion very quickly as well back to component libraries, because they have a really interesting approach. Of course, e-commerce is a e-commerce platform that works on Umbraco, Sitecore, Kentico, a whole bunch of platforms, and they are using as much as possible the exact same back office experience for each of those platforms. It's not to say there isn't platform specific stuff in there, but they've effectively built one editing experience and they ship it in with each of them. And I found that really interesting. I think it's built in React or something. It's not necessarily in Angular. So you've got a different framework running in the back office, a different set of components, but they've kind of built their own, design language and says when I'm using a e-commerce product, I'm always going to know where things live and where things are, and it doesn't really then matter if it's Sitecore or Umbraco.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a nice. They've been doing this again years. So a nice example of something working quite well.
But it also depends in this case, because for example, if I will be running an e-commerce store and I got used to using e-commerce, I may want to change the CMS. That's fine, but I still got used to using the platform as which is my magazine, my stock, my stuff like that, my orders. And the other way around, if I'm more Umbraco, for example, focused, and I want to just use e-commerce, I would love to see the built-in or similar approach and not learn two products simultaneously, right? So it's probably we don't have answers here. It's like about motivation behind that, and yeah, I haven't used e-commerce, but I saw that it looks exactly the same on other platforms, and it just connects with the CMSs. So yeah, interesting use case, maybe worth to highlight from the design and UI and UX perspective at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also interesting that there's a need of having different technologies talking together. So by separating and easing that, hopefully will be easier. I don't know how they've done it today with the React, but they probably had to build some kind of binding for some parts at least.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, indeed. And but I guess as well, it shows that with this new Umbraco UI component library could potentially do the same thing, where someone could theoretically build a platform for Umbraco, use the Umbraco component library, but run the same thing in the Sitecore backend, for example. Should you really want to do that?
Provide the UI, the Umbraco UI experience inside. That's maybe a theme.
I still have a pet project idea of building the WordPress back office in Umbraco. So,
That's the opposite.
because there are still people asking for WordPress, and I want to let them use Umbraco, and that's the only way probably sometimes.
Yeah.
But if we are talking about crazy, if we are talking about crazy stuff, that's a nice segue to something what Kevin Jump shared with us this week as well. It's his journey or exploration of the .NET Core version of Umbraco, and I really like this idea of learning and sharing on the way, because Kevin literally said that he wants to learn how some concepts worked in the new version of the .NET Core Umbraco, and yeah, he shared his cool stuff and what can be done and how it can be done within the specific area, and already covered some of the areas like logging. Something wrong with my mouse, damn it. So yeah, logging, compositions, options, and events, and yeah, everyone can right now learn from Kevin's experiences and explorations. As we know, Kevin does a lot of great engineering and also investigations around Umbraco to help build and maintain his projects and his packages. So yeah, everyone is welcome to contribute to that, and I believe this Do Stuff with Umbraco repository was heavily used. It has 46 stars already, but right now it also has a .NET Core branch, so you can check it out and see and play with .NET Core.
I know for sure I've referenced this when I've been building a package, show how Kevin, done something, or you can do something in the back end currently. So
exactly. Yeah, and another great stuff was shared by Shannon, again, about some utilization of auto upgrades and some continuous integration and deployments with Umbraco and Umbraco Cloud, some another great exploration of GitHub Actions, some other concepts, and of course possibilities of new versions and NuGet upgrades, and Shannon shared a blog post probably somewhere also on Twitter. We can combine this link to that as well, highlighting how to use that. But here there are some proof of concepts of work done by Shannon on auto-upgrading Umbraco and deploying it to Umbraco Cloud directly from GitHub Actions, which is cool, and probably a lot of people and automations freaks would love to explore and see how it's done there. And that's from the releases perspective. Obviously, we probably missed something, so if we do, please share it somewhere in the comments. We'll, of course, include this in the list of links which will be added to the episode after all. And some things which we wanted to highlight at the end is like community office hours, which were started 2 weeks ago. The first one was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, but the video's only just gone online this week, so you can go catch up now.
So yeah, there is a recording of the first session, which was the kickoff session of the office hours, and there is also a recording of this week's session with Umbraco developer advocates, which was also streamed live this week, and right now the recording is for all of us. And there's one more session. I can't remember when it is exactly, but there's a link,
and it's on the Unicore project.
Yep, it's about the Unicore project, April 7. Yep, and the next one is on May. So yeah, the office hours are there, and everyone can catch up if you couldn't make it and join live and ask questions. Questions can be also combined for the next sessions. And contribution-wise, call to action, because I didn't realize, but right now I do. that call for speakers are ending this weekend for Code Garden 2021. And again, Emma, Carol, and the rest of the team behind the Speakers Academy helped a lot of people already during the sessions to combine some of the ideas. I've seen a lot of community members also tweeting about topics being added to the proposals list. So yep, if anyone still thinks about talking on Code Garden, talking about various things, there are topics to be covered here. The deadline is to 15 March. So
midnight on Sunday, Europe time. So if you're in the UK, it's 11 p.m. Don't get caught by that. It's happened to me before. Submit it now, not in 2 days' time. I will, in this final run up to submitting, if anyone wants their submission reviewed, like ping me a message on Slack or Twitter or anything. Always happy to review submissions. I've seen thousands and submitted thousands and been rejected from thousands. So I know at least what goes into this. And equally, even if you've just got a little bit of an idea, submit it anyway. The idea doesn't have to be fully fleshed out right now. It can be fleshed out a little bit in a few weeks. And maybe you've been inspired today by something you've seen, like the UI focused stuff. It would be great to see more varied talks. There's a whole stream of talks on Code Garden around creative and front end technologies as well.
Yeah. Yes, off-rounded.
more talks like that, and still we've mentioned that last week probably when I was talking with Emma that the talk done by Perplex about the helping in back office experience was one of the really top received ones. So it doesn't need to be a hardcore coding stuff about changing crazy things inside of the C# CLR, but it can be something cool, usable related, editors related, and still it's beneficial for all of us because we are building products on top of the Umbraco, which is used by editors after all. But of course, speaking about hacking, we want to highlight some hacking done by Warren on iPad this time, using the GitHub code spaces. I believe, Callum, you've been a huge inspiration sometimes as well. I believe here it was just to prove that code spaces can be run on iPad.
Asking for a code spaces app for iPad, which makes just tons of sense. Like, why wouldn't you? So that would be awesome if that can be like the development machine of the future. I just use my iPad and connect to GitHub.
Yeah, so it's just here. Warren just proved that it can be done. So if you want to see how Warren did it, and of course, again, great kind of summary of the hacking time spent and proving that something crazy can be done. Shared here and linked is down below. Purnima also hacked a little bit with the latest Unicore Alpha 3 version, and Purnima also shared her story and her journey, how to do it, how to start, and just step by step on how to run it, how to deal with, and what has changed, what is new.
She's got views running. She's got kind of a template and everything there. It's looking awesome. Yeah.
Which is again cool and proving that things can be done that way. And Callum, 2 final sections from the agenda. One
pull request of the week. This one again, UI library component-ish focused. Kevin's got his Sense autocomplete inside. It's a Visual Studio extension or VS Code extension.
Yes, VS Code extension.
Anyway, Adam Werner in the US, he has contributed. Basically, every single directive component in the back office is now auto-completed as part of Sense. So he's managed to scrape the documentation, I think, and generate a big JSON file that has all of the definitions and the documentation for each component in it. And now Sense uses that, which is really sweet. Really, really sweet.
Cool. Yeah. So everyone can use it. Everyone can just play with it in the VS Code right now, and Visual Studio extension. So that's to be used. And final Adolphe appreciation time.
We just appreciate Dennis for a bit. But this blog post is really, really good as well. He's been posting some amazing stuff on unit testing. He's doing a talk at the Umbraco Leeds meetup in a few weeks as well about unit testing. Go watch that. Go read his blog. There's some great things from this week. Yeah,
and that's a wrap. That's all for today. Yeah, Callum, we've combined some.
So thank you for the people going in the chat today who noticed we have a link now in our description. We didn't want to highlight it, but it's there. So go buy us a coffee. Anyway, the link doesn't work currently because I think Marcin's put some like special characters in the URL. But a few people found it and got it working, and literally today supported us. So thank you so much to Soren, to Franz, to Owen, and Arnold, who've all supported us during this episode. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yep. And of course, thank you, Julia, and thank you, Niels, for sharing all of the stuff this week. Again, we will, of course, highlight all of the topics which we were talking about, all the links, everything what you will need, and put it down below to the description of this episode just after we'll end the stream. And as usual, we welcome you to share it across your teammates. If you have a design team, UI teams, front-end teams in your companies or your teams, let them know about what's going on here. Share this episode with some maybe link to the time frame when the Umbraco team started talking about the UI components and RFC, and just ask them for sharing feedback and helping in building something great for all of us. And yeah, thanks again for joining us today, and everyone else. Share, subscribe, like, and as usual, see you everyone in the next Friday's episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
bye.
Thank you, and bye. Have a good
you.
rest of the day.